Hi, and welcome to Cenario, your partner in mental wellness. Here on our channel, we share educational, insightful, and science-backed content to help you understand your mental health and take meaningful steps toward a more balanced life. If you're ready to learn, grow, and take control of your wellness journey, let's jump right in.
You've seen them everywhere, right? Herbal brain supplements. They all promise a sharper memory, maybe some laser-like focus, and it's all from a natural source. But let's be real, the market is just flooded with hype. So how do you tell the actual science from a clever sales pitch? Well, in this explainer, we're going to cut through all that confusion and give you the tools to figure out what really works. So this is really the big question we're trying to answer. Are these supplements a genuine brain boost, or is it all just great marketing? We're going to break down the evidence piece by piece so you can make up your own mind. Here's how we're going to tackle this. We've got 5 parts. First, we'll look at the big promises these products make. Then, we'll get into a really important choice: single herbs versus complex blends. After that, we are going to become evidence detectives. Then we'll cover safety, and we'll finish up with a super practical checklist to make you a much smarter consumer. All right, let's start with the why. Why are these supplements so incredibly popular? The whole idea of a natural way to boost your brain is just so appealing, and it taps into this long history of holistic health and wellness. So, what exactly are these things? Well, at their core, they're plant-based extracts. They're marketed to help support our cognitive skills. Things like memory, focus, and that feeling of mental clarity. You'll definitely recognize some of the big names, like ginkgo, bacopa, and ashwagandha. And the claims are, you have to admit, pretty compelling. Marketers promise you everything from better recall and learning to sharper focus and even less stress. Now, what's really going on here is that these claims are a big mix of things. You've got centuries of traditional use, some early scientific findings, and of course, a very healthy dose of marketing. Now, for the first big decision you're going to face when you're looking at the shelf, do you go for a supplement that has just one single herb, or do you pick one that's a complex blend of many different ingredients? These are 2 completely different approaches. So here's how the 2 paths break down. With single herbs, you get clarity. The evidence is just more straightforward, and you can easily look at the dose on the bottle and match it to what's been used in actual studies. With blends, you're really buying into this promise of synergy, this idea that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. But that promise comes with a lot more unknowns, making it much, much harder to figure out if it's safe or even effective. Let's get really specific with single herbs for a second. So, for example, studies on ashwagandha consistently use a dose between 225 and 400 milligrams to see benefits for stress. That gives you a clear target to look for. But then look at something like ginkgo biloba. It's been studied for decades, right? But the most rigorous reviews show it doesn't actually prevent dementia. Some smaller studies might suggest minor memory benefits in healthy adults, but that distinction is absolutely crucial. This is the kind of important detail you can find when you focus on just one ingredient. And that brings us to the biggest problem with blends. The key phrase to watch out for is proprietary blend. A lot of the time, this is just a way for companies to avoid telling you the exact amount of each ingredient. And if you don't know the dose, you simply cannot know the potential effect. It's that simple. Okay, so this leads us to our next crucial skill: learning how to think a little bit like a scientist. Knowing how to read the evidence behind a product is seriously your best defense against all that clever marketing. So what does good evidence even look like? Well, the scientific gold standard is something called a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial that's been conducted in humans. It sounds like a mouthful, I know, but this rigorous design is our best tool for filtering out the placebo effect and finding out if a supplement truly works. So when you're looking at a product's website, here's what to look for. Strong evidence means you're seeing multiple human trials published in respected journals that test the exact dose and formula that you're thinking about buying. You should be really skeptical of claims that are based only on animal studies or a single study funded by the manufacturer or, just marketing copy that has no citations at all. Okay, we've talked a lot about effectiveness, but what about safety? This is, you could argue, the most important part of this whole conversation. Because natural does not automatically mean safe. This is the single most important thing to get. Unlike prescription drugs, the FDA does not approve dietary supplements for safety and effectiveness before they can be sold. What that means is the quality and the purity can vary dramatically from one brand to the next. Because of that gap in regulation, the responsibility really falls on you, the consumer. That means you have to consider potential interactions with your other medications, be aware of common side effects, and be especially cautious if you're pregnant or you're managing any other medical condition. And these interactions are not trivial. This quote from our source material is a perfect and pretty scary example. Something as common as ginkgo biloba can pose a really serious risk if you happen to be taking blood thinners. This is exactly why you must talk to your doctor about any supplements you're even thinking about taking. So we've covered the promise, the science, and the safety. Now let's put it all together into a final, actionable checklist that you can use for any supplement out there. Here is your 5-step plan. Number 1, demand transparency on the label. 2, go find the human trial data that actually backs it up. 3, look for those seals from independent third-party testers. 4, just say no to those vague proprietary blends. And number 5, check for something called Good Manufacturing Practices, or GMP. And if you do decide to try something, here's how to do it in the safest way possible. Start with just one new ingredient at a time and start at a low dose. Then just keep a simple diary of how you feel for at least a month, maybe even up to 12 weeks. This methodical approach is really the best way to figure out what's actually working for you.
And that really brings us to our final question. After exploring all the evidence, the risks, and the marketing, we're kind of left to wonder, for a truly sharper mind, is the answer really found in a pill? Or is it found in our daily practices, like sleep, exercise, and just being a lifelong learner? It's definitely something to think about.
Thank you for watching Cenario. If this video helped you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. For personalized mental wellness supplements, visit Cenario.com. See you in the next one.